I said home, and my mother wasn't sure that I said it, and so they drove around the lanes once again and drove in again and again. So I think my mom must have said it many times, as I write in the book.
But your concept of home has changed so often over the years.
Well, I chose the title home because I thought, well, it could represent home, which I always had a great fondness for and a great need for. And then I thought, well, also it can represent the theatre, which has been my home for so many years back. And then is home what lies inside us all here? I just thought hopefully the readers could make that up, decide for themselves.
There's also, in the sense of the first in this book, a question that came to my mind. The first song you remember hearing, and the first song you remember singing?
Oh my. The first song I remember singing was, I think I must have, my aunt, my mother was a pianist, and her sister, my aunt, was a dancing teacher. She had a dancing school, and so all through my life I was able to pop in for a class, and my aunt was a big influence in my life, and my mother sometimes wasn't present. But I appeared at like 3 and 4 years old in Auntie's dancing galas that she'd put on for us, with her students. And the first song I think I ever sang was a little song called I Wonder Who Lives at Number 4. I've never seen anyone open the door. The steps are all rusty and old and grey. I'm sure someone's feet must have worn them away. But nobody comes, nobody goes, the gate only bangs when the wild wind blows, etc., etc., etc. It goes on, the door's rusty, and I once saw a face at the window pane. Somebody lives there, I'm almost sure. Do you suppose there are fairies at number 4? And that was the first song I ever sang.
But did you grow up hearing music, listening to songs?
Yes, I did.
From a very early
Yeah, well, my mom was and should have been a very fine concert pianist. She got her degrees at a ridiculously young age, and life and the things that, fate just had other ideas for her, but she was a great pianist. And so I grew up listening to Grieg and Rachmaninoff, and particularly Chopin and De Faya, and my stepfather was a tenor, and they had a kind of vaudeville act. Well, it was a vaudeville act. It was a kind of drawing room act. The top of the bill was always the great comedian of the week, and the second top of the bill was usually my mom and dad. And they did sort of everything from grand opera. My mother accompanied my stepfather at the piano. He sang grand opera, and ballads and popular songs of the day, and he had a guitar as well.
You have written children's books with your daughter and by yourself.
Right.
We'll talk later about, I guess, 1 or 2 of them are being turned into musicals of their own.
Yeah.
But this is such a different undertaking. Why did you decide to do it?
Well, it took a long time to decide. Hyperion Publishers, the head of Hyperion, is a lovely gentleman called Robert Miller. And he came to me about 15 years ago and asked if I would be interested in writing a bio, and I said, oh, I really don't think so. And anyway, it seems a little too early, and I haven't thought about it. And he said, well, would you think about it, and may I come back and bug you again? And he did, and he kept coming back, and he kept coming back. And about 10 years ago, he said, could we not, since I've been around and I'm a fan and so on, could we not just at least sign a contract that you'll do it with us? And I said, well, sure, if I ever do it, I will. So they gave me a modest down payment, and I immediately wanted to give it back, because now I was hooked, and I couldn't touch the money because I didn't think I'd ever write the book, and so on. But then I began to think about, well, if I ever did do it, I would write it for my grandchildren, but why publish? And then finally, to cut a very long story short, about 4 years ago, I came across Moss Hart's wonderful biography, Act 1, which if some of you haven't read it, you should. It's about the theatre, and he's the director of My Fair Lady and Camelot. He did the film of A Star is Born with Judy Garland, umpteen plays on Broadway, and his wonderful biography, which is funny and enlightening and beautifully written, gave me an insight into the early history of Broadway, which I knew very little about, and so I learned something. And I thought, well, maybe I could write about the early days of my life and the last dying days of vaudeville. That was my heritage. I was a child brat that toured the circuits time and time and time again. And what it was like to be in vaudeville in those days when all the theatres were on their last legs and television hadn't quite come in and it was the end of the war. And I suddenly thought, well, somebody might grasp a little bit of history out of that. So I took a leaf out of Moss's book, and that finally became the reason that I thought maybe it was a reason to publish. So yeah, that's the story.
But in writing this, you must have learned, in order to tell us about vaudeville,